Hello guys, Omni here. Just watched episode 5 of The Mandalorian, chapter 5, The Gunslinger. Again, if you haven't watched this episode, go ahead and tune out and come back once you have, because I'm going to go into spoilers. This was a really interesting episode, and I actually really enjoyed it. This show just keeps going. It's another shorter one. It's going down a little bit from the last one, but that overall, I'm not really going to harp on the show for the length at all, because these stories are just so compact and tight and to the point. There's no wasted time. It doesn't feel like we're staying in any moments too long, and I don't really feel like we're ever like lingering for something more. It doesn't ever feel like something was cut out. It's just, this is the perfect length for these individual stories, and that's fine. In the beginning, it was a little jarring for me because I guess our expectations were a lot different there in the beginning, and I think we've kind of leveled those expectations out with the last couple of episodes, and that's fine. This was a fun little episode. I love how this episode opens, though, with a space battle. Mando's flying away, bounty hunters chasing him in a starfighter and is just shooting at him. He's trying to take him out. Mando's taking some hits. Of course, he's got his slower, larger freighter that he's flying in, his Raven Crest, and this guy says the line that we've heard Mando say a couple times. It's like, I could bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold. Mando cuts the engines off, so the guy bashes right into one of his wings and flips in front of the Mando ship, and he's like, that's my line, and just blam, 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 takes him out, man. That was pretty cool. It was an interesting little opening, but the ship's taking some damage, taking some hits, but they need to land somewhere, and where do they land? Tatooine. We get to see Tatooine for the first time in a long time, and he goes into Mos Eisley Spaceport to get some repairs, and this was just a familiar setting is even just nicer. Again, we finally get some more planet names. I guess this is something that's going to be playing out. We actually get the name of the previous planet where the guild is actually housed, or at least where the Mandalorian was stationed up when he turned on the guild. Is called Navarro, as we learned a little bit later. As soon as he lands the ship in Mos Eisley, he's greeted in this spaceport with pit droids, and we know how he is with droids, and he just immediately fires at them, and they recoil into their default little compact form as the mechanic comes out and just chastises him for like shooting at her droids or whatever. She starts looking at his ship, talking about all the damage that's done to it, and she's going to have to do it. And he, again, as he has with other things, insisted that the droids don't get involved at all. He doesn't have enough credits to cover it, so he's going to go look for work to see if he can make up the credits to get the repairs to his ship so he can get out of there. He starts walking through Tatooine, and we see a lot of familiar shots, settings. It's just really nice being back here again. That scene that we saw in the trailer with the spikes and the stormtrooper helmets put up on them with the blood dripping down off of them and stuff. We see that. It doesn't really lead to anything. It's just, I guess, something they put up out in the outer rim to kind of ward off or kind of show where they stand as far as the Empire is concerned. So while he's looking around Mos Eisley trying to find somewhere to get some work, it cuts back to the mechanic's little shop there, and the pit droids are all playing, I think it looks like Pazak, and she hears a cry come from the ship, and she's like, oh no, what's this? And she, pulls out a gun to go aim it at the ship dock, and, and then of course just cute baby Yoda comes waddling out. No matter what you do, you can't cage this kid. I don't know how the Empire did it even for as long as they had him locked up or on the run or them trying to get him back. He seems to slide out of every situation, but it's super cute. She takes him in. She starts to take care of him. She's like, you know what? I'm just going to charge the Mando extra for taking care of you, little buddy. She's going to charge him some babysitting fees. It was really adorable, but the Mando finds the cantina, goes up to talk to the droid serving at the cantina, and we get some interesting shots of some familiar creatures from classic Star Wars, which was cool. Another little nod in there. But the droid's like, we don't have guild work out here, and even for you, we don't have anything anyway. But in the corner, there's a character, young, I guess, aspiring bounty hunter named Taro Calican, who offers him a job. He's out there trying to get into the Bounty Hunters Guild himself, wanting to make it in and be part of the guild. So he takes on this huge bounty that even like some of the craziest bounty hunters probably wouldn't go after. It's a character named Fennec Shand, who is an ex-assassin who's worked for various crime syndicates, the Hutts, No one's really ever been able to bring them in. He tries to barter with him. He's like, listen, I need to get it. I just wanted to get in the guild. It's my aspiration. You can keep all the money, the rewards, as long as I get to take the bounty in. And that's it. And the Mando's like, I'll take that deal. To make sure that the Mando doesn't betray him or whatever, he destroys the tracking fob, but he does that thing where like, I've got it memorized, so you better keep me around. Don't cut me out. They get some speeders and they go off, and the bounty is out beyond the Dune Sea. So we see some really great sweeping shots of them just riding these speeder bikes out across the dunes of Tatooine. Before they make it to their quarry, they are actually kind of stopped up by some Tusken Raiders that they see off in the distance. And while they're looking at it, was like, Toro makes a comment that, they better stay away. And it cuts back to Mando, and he's like, well, you better tell him yourself. And it just pans right behind him, and there's two Tusken Raiders standing right there. And while he's freaking out, the Mando just keeps his cool, and he starts doing like this sign language to them, actually communicating with them. And there's like this little nugget here, which I believe is expanded universe stuff, where it's kind of they're the original inhabitants of Tatooine. So when Taro makes a comment about, I've heard the locals talking about him, I was like, well, if you ask the Raiders, they're the locals, not them. They're intruding on their territory. But he takes a moment, he does these sign language things to the Raiders who start communicating back. They make an exchange. He gives them his binoculars in exchange for letting them pass into their lands. It was just a nice little moment, and adding some of that Star Wars expanded lore back into this, fluffing things out a little bit more like we did with the Jawas and now with these Tusken Raiders. I always love that. The Tusken Raiders and their culture, at least in an expanded universe, has always been really, really interesting. So I'm glad that we're getting a little bit of nuggets here in this into regards to that. Even though it was short-lived, it was a nice little addition. They come across this dewback that's just walking astray with a body being dragged behind it. They cautiously approach it, wondering if it's, well, we know it's not the bounty, but Toro is like, is that her? But it's just one of the bounty hunters that was also trying to get onto her. He's checking the body, and then he finds the fob, which is actively beeping, letting them know that she's actually near there. And she's up on a ridge with a sniper rifle and just starts opening fire on the Mandalorian. She manages to hit him twice, but right into his Beskar, so he's fine. He manages to get back, and they have a little conversation about what they're going to do. And he was like, the only reason I got out of that was because she hit me in my Beskar. He was like, and then Toro was just like, I don't have any Beskar. And he's like, you're right, you don't. He's just like undermining this kid the entire time. I mean, the kid wasn't that smart to begin with at all, at any point in this. So they wait for nightfall because the Mando has a plan. And there's this dumb little moment, just kind of showing off the kind of character Toro is. While the Mandalorian's asleep up against the speeder bike, he tries to wake him up and thinks he's still asleep and starts doing like, ha ha ha, doing this quick draw thing at him. Like he's, some kind of hot shot, kind of like when you're flexing in the mirror to yourself, just to realize the Mandalorian's actually awake, and is like, stop that. But they formulate a plan. The Mando hands him a flare launcher, and they're going to take their speeder bikes and just bum rush her. And the flares should give them enough time between it to block out the scope on her rifle to get them closer. So they alternate as they're getting up there, launching these flares and disrupting her line of sight. So she can't really see them to shoot them, which is a smart idea, especially to wait tonight to be able to do that. And they go up. Eventually, the Mando ends up, Toro misses one of his flares and just kind of shoots it into the ground, which gets the Mandalorian shot off of his bike. Again, hit in his chest plate. And he gets up, and before she can take a shot at Toro, he launches a flare himself to cover his fire. Toro gets up there, and they just go hand to hand as he sneaks up on her while she's trying to recalibrate her sights on the Mandalorian, who is vulnerable at the moment since he fell off his speeder. But he sneaks up on her. They have a little tussle, and he just gets his butt kicked. And this chick is just awesome. She kicks his butt. I just love her attitude. I love her design, like her look. Short-lived, but the Mandalorian sneaks up while she's distracted with him and puts her at gunpoint, gets her to cuff herself, and then they try to take her back, and they only have one speeder. So one of them has to go back, and he's like, you go get the dewback. and I'll watch her. And he's like, no, 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 you're not making off with my bounty. So the Mandalorian concedes and he goes to get the dewback. In that moment, he takes a while because, of course, he's got to walk, one, through the Dune Sea to get to that dewback, and then two, take that dewback back to get another speeder to come back and get the guy. But in that time, Fennec tries to weasel her way out of this, kind of coax this like immature little kid who's trying to get his way into the guild. And she talks to him about, did you not hear about what happened to Navarro? You know, there was a Mandalorian that betrayed the guild and made off with one of his targets. They say it's a child, so that's one way to find out if he's actually the one. And, you know, he makes that promise. He was like, I'll help you. I'll even help you take him down because his head and his Beskar armor is worth more than her bounty could ever be. So she tries to barter for life, and she gets up to put up her hands for the cuffs, and he just shoots her. You know, he would have had a better chance. Maybe she would have killed him. She probably would have just killed him and made off on her own and not even bothered with it. That's probably what I would have got out of that. But while she's cuffed and vulnerable, he shoots her like the punk he is. And he's like, if I take him out by myself, I will be a legend. Like, what are you smoking, kid? Really? Anyway, he goes up because the Mandalorian took a dewback back to Mos Eisley. When he gets back to the hangar, there's a speeder bike already there because Toro took the speeder bike, and he goes in. He's at the docking ramp of the Raven Crest. He's got baby Yodes in his hand. He's got the mechanic at blaster point in front of him. And he's like, put your hands up, drop your blaster, blah, 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 or the kid gets it. You know, typical stuff. He gives the mechanic handcuffs and tells her to go and handcuff the Mandalorian. You know, he lifts his hands up. He's still got the flare launcher in his hand. And she's like, you're smarter than you look. And in that moment, Mando just flicks the flare. Toro, like the idiot he is, just gets blinded. And Mando just tucks, rolls, pow, shoots him. Which was like super risky because he fell on the arm where he was holding Baby Yoda. So his body weight on Baby Yoda's pretty tiny. Maybe not the best idea, but he's fine. Baby Yoda's used the Force to tuck and roll. Not really. We don't even really see Baby Yoda after he falls over. We just find him later hiding behind some barrels. But that's what I say happened. Like, anyway, to the point. Toro's dead. Surprise. Surprise, surprise. He's dead. Baby Yoda comes out, coos a little bit more. It's really cute. Super adorable. He takes credits, the Republic credits, to mind you, off of his body and just dumps them in the mechanic's hand. And from the look on her face, it seems to be way more than what she actually was going to expect or charge him. But she finishes the repair, sends him off. Before we get to that, hilariously dark sense of humor kind of thing here. She's like, well, what am I going to do with the body? She tells the pit droids to just drag it to Beggar's Canyon and leave it there. I just thought that was so hilarious and just so cynical and dark and just nice. What I expected from something like this. But anyway, as the Mandalorian flies off, it cuts back to Fennec's body, and we see a cloaked figure walk up and find her corpse. Or like we can assume is her corpse, but wondering who that might be. Another Mandalorian, a Sith, Inquisitor, something. Probably not anything Force sensitive, Force related. Maybe an Imperial, maybe Boba Fett. Maybe Boba coming in here, coming after this other Mandalorian to take him down, to, flex on each other. Probably not. I don't think it's going to be anybody we've seen before. Probably a new character or somebody from earlier in the series just wearing a cloak. Who knows? But there's a lot of directions this go. Another short little kind of Western episode. Really enjoyable. Loved it. Man, these short kind of condensed stories I like this sense of storytelling. Like there's a very loose thread connecting every episode, but they're all very much their own kind of story. Very much different kind of story. Some of them very familiar Western kind of tropes and storylines that we've seen before. Of course, that's what this is kind of inspired by and based on. And it's great. I love it. The way they execute it and blend it into the Star Wars universe is just really, really well done. And another solid episode in this ongoing series. This leaves us with 3 more episodes to go for this season. I'm and I can't wait. I'm really excited to see how this all pans out, where this is going to go, what the main like end point is going to be for this season. I know they're moving on into season 2. Are we going to have some of these threads carry on into season 2? Is what we've had set up so far going to be resolved by the end of the season? I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of this episode? I'm going to pass this off to you guys at this point. What do you all think? What are some things about this? What are some of the highlights of this episode for you guys? What are some things you still want to see come back up later in the show? Yeah, sound off in the comments. We'll carry on the conversation after the video, but another super solid episode in this just Star Wars Disney Plus series. Do what you can to watch this show. This show is just worth it. I love it to death. The quality that we're getting of these little episodes, even though they're smaller than what we've been getting with what we've been trained to expect from other shows here in recent years, it's just quality, solid, just storytelling. And that's enough for me. That sells me enough on it. It's Star Wars, solid storytelling, and they don't waste any time. There's no padding, no fluff. It's just to the point. That's it. That's all I got for today, guys. So if you like this video, make sure to support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. But that's it for this video. I will catch you guys in the next one. And may the Force be with you always. Take care, everybody.